Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome back to Tachy Talks. Today we have our 9th episode. It's a very special episode, like we mentioned last week. But before we get into that, just to introduce, I'm Haley, and these are my pals.
Hello, everyone. I am Haley's first pal, Advait. Nice to meet you.
And I'm Kylie. I love that. Sorry, I love that Hamilton reference. I'm doing it every week.
And you might notice if you are on YouTube that we actually have a fourth person here with us today. So this is Molly. She's from the Med Trek, which is another YouTube channel that you should go check out. And she's joined us today. We're going to be talking about a couple different things. First off, if you have been over to her, if you're from her channel, or you might want to go over there now, we have part 1 talking about Western essays, the abbreviated ABS. We talked about structure and what we wrote in our essays. And now we're here for part 2. So if you're from the Med Trek and you already saw that video, hi, welcome. We're so glad to have you. We're going to be talking about tips and tricks for the essay, and then we're going to be asking Molly some questions and having her just tell us about her journey. So hi, Molly. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Molly. I am an incoming medical student. I'll be starting at Queen's University in like less than a month, which is very scary to say. But like these wonderful people here, I have a YouTube channel, an Instagram channel. I don't know if it's Instagram channel, but I have Instagram and YouTube. And I've been doing kind of what they've been doing, talking about admissions over the summer, just before medical school starts. So definitely go check out the first video on that. And I also had a video for people who might be applying to Toronto about the Toronto essays. So definitely check those 2 videos out.
Perfect. And we'll have all of Molly's socials and the other video linked down below on YouTube. And then we'll also have it linked in our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, as per usual on the link tree. So you can check that out, easy peasy. And before we jump into all the serious stuff, what did everybody get up to this week? Advait?
Thanks for asking. This week was same as always. I'm biking. I'm increasing my kilometers. I did 100K this week in one go, which was...
Oh, woo, baby, that's awesome. You go, Advait.
100K.
Nice.
Biking or running?
Pardon?
Biking?
Biking, yeah. 100K running. Ooh, I wish.
That would be like an ultra marathon.
That'd be ultra marathon, yeah. If you're unaware, I'm trying to bike to London with some of my friends from Windsor to London, which is about 200 kilometers. It's just a fun little challenge we're training for. So, I'm training for that with them. But something else I did this week was I went to the beach with some of my friends. Nothing too crazy, I haven't swam in such a long time. So it was nice getting in the water and just having a good time. Actually, I think this was the first time I've ever gotten sunburned in my life. I know it wasn't too bad.
Did you not wear your sunscreen?
Did you not have the SPF on? What SPF was it?
Yo, I straight up use SPF 60.
And it's no way. And you still burn? I don't even burn with SPF 60 on.
He is a good sunscreen user because he had to get back into my house to get a sunscreen.
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't reapply it after 2 hours, and we're there for a while. So I think that's what the problem was. But
amateur hours.
Amateur hours. Now I know from experience to apply sunscreen every 2 hours. Make sure that, listen, my skin's kind of brown, so I didn't think I was going to get burnt. But now I learned something new. But yeah, that was.
You gotta read the bottle. It says you have to reapply every 90 minutes to 120 minutes after vigorous sweat or exposure to water.
Yeah, I had both. I had vigorous sweat and exposure to water.
Good stuff.
I was vigorously exposed to sweat.
That happens.
How about you, Kylie? How was your week?
Oh my God. Okay. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but like literally the days are flying by and it feels like I've done absolutely nothing. I don't know if it's because like school's coming up and I'm like, okay, like I need to fit everything in. I need to straight chill before like, I guess we have like a week now until we go back, not to school, but for orientation. So I don't know, like last night we set up, like my parents bought this like big outdoor movie screen. So we like set it up and watched a movie. Honestly, like I just like am trying to catch up on everything. The same thing I was doing last time you heard me because I went away for a week and now I'm still trying to catch up from all that. Had a bunch of meetings, I was in a meeting with Haley about orientation week. So that was really fun.
Spicy.
We got to make faces at each other. And then next week I'm going hiking. So that'll be fun. But that's the only thing that's really exciting at the moment for me. Haley, what's up? Tell me about your life.
Oh my God, what you said about the days flying by, like so true. And orientation week is coming up. And as I've mentioned before, I am part of the coordinating committee. There's 3 of us, but because of COVID this year, we've split. So usually all the Windsor students go to London and we all do orientation week together in London, but it's separate this week. So I'm kind of heading up the Windsor division of orientation week. Not to say like my 2 partners over in London have been fantastic, but there is a lot to get done here. And admin keeps throwing these curveballs at us, and I just keep catching them or hitting them or whatever, however baseball works, I'm doing it. And it is stressful, but like it's like that, you know, that stress where you're like, this is awful right now, but I know in 2 weeks I'm gonna feel so great when it all happens. So I'm just looking forward to that feeling right now. I am going camping with my family this week, so hopefully I'll take some time away from the computer, but I don't know how much I will actually. I mean, I do have responsibilities, unfortunately. Yeah, nothing too exciting other than planning and getting ready. Molly, what you get up to this week?
I'm trying to remember what I did this week. As you guys said, days are just like flying by. So Queens, we start orientation on the 31st, and then our first day of school is September 8th. So like I need to move to Kingston, so I've been packing a lot. I've been trying to figure out how U-Hauls work and if I'm capable of driving one or if I should get someone else to drive it. I'm driving it, so if I don't end up in Kingston, I'm probably because I crashed the U-Haul or something.
I believe in you. You got this.
So we'll see how this goes. But I basically packing up my place in Hamilton. There's boxes everywhere. I did an IKEA run. If you guys like IKEA, IKEA is like my favorite place sometimes on earth. Did an IKEA run, which was super fun.
Did you go to IKEA this week? Because
Yeah.
I went to IKEA this week, and was it so busy when you went?
So busy. And I trained service dogs, so I had one of my service dogs there, and he was really good. There were so many people around, and it was very hectic. And I was like, what?
Felt like Disney World. So many lines.
We went on a Thursday. We went on a Thursday, like in midday. And I was like, what are people doing? Why are they all here? But yeah,
activity right now.
Yeah, I guess it's all you can do right now is just go and build IKEA stuff. But yeah, did an IKEA run, got a new iPad, which I'm super excited to open up later today because
so fun.
Upper years at Queens have said if you like have money, invest in an iPad, it'll be super worth it. So I'm excited to go.
That's pretty funny. They're acting like an iPad is a stock. If you have money, invest in an iPad.
We got that iPad gang.
I got the one that Kylie has, so I'm super excited. And
did you get the pencil too?
Oh yes, I got the pencil.
You're gonna love it.
I got
so great.
The paper thing, like the paper screen writing. So apparently it makes.
Yep, that's what I have on mine too. You're gonna love it.
So I'm super excited to go play with it. And then yeah, that's pretty much it for my week. I'm going camping later on tomorrow with some friends who I've been seeing who are in my bubble with the dogs. So we've never taken the dogs camping before, so we'll see how it goes.
How many dogs are you guys training right now?
So we're training one. His name is Yaxley. He's a big dog. He's a big goofy dog. He's 10 months old right now. And then the first one that I fostered for our service dogs, name is Julian. And he unfortunately got disqualified because he had a tummy issue. So then me and my friend who were fostering him just decided to adopt him together. And we've just been kind of like sharing him back and forth like a divorced kid. Or not.
That's so cute.
And he totally loves it. Like he's just happy if there's food anywhere. So he does not care who he's with. But he'll be coming to Kingston with me, and I'll also bring Yaxley with me to Kingston once in a while. Hopefully Yaxley will get to go to medical school. He'll get some my classes, hopefully. But yeah.
I love that.
Love that. So before we jump in, and Molly's actually going to start by asking us questions about the essay because the continuation, like we said, so make sure you've checked out that video. But before we jump into that, Kylie, do you have a special message to share with the group?
This is so predictable, but as per usual, everything we say does not respect the views of our respective institutions. These are our opinions only. We're going to give you some tips and tricks on the essays, but just because we tell you them does not mean you're going to get an interview or mean you're going to get in. It's just merely advice that we're giving to you, and it's all based on our own experiences. We don't know anyone in admissions. They don't give us any intel. They don't give us any information. We have nothing about their selection process. So it's merely our own advice. let's get into it.
Beautiful. Let's get into it. Smash that like button.
Stop. This is like every week.
Beautiful. Okay, so we've already kind of how to approach the essays and such. Now we're gonna kind of talk about how to make the essays stand out and some tips and tricks. I think you guys have been reviewing some essays and such, or just taking a look and looking back at your own essays. Do you guys maybe want to name some common mistakes that you see with the essays?
Yeah, so I've been reviewing some essays that people have sent, which I love to do. It's always very nice to be able to help. But honestly, I think the biggest issue that I see is that people get off track. So they, like, if you listen to the first part, we were talking about a skeleton and just saying, like, this is what I did, this is what I learned, this is what I learned, this is what I learned, this is how it's going to make me a good physician. And I find that sometimes people get caught up in telling the story of what they did or trying to fit CanMed's rules in awkwardly, and I kind of lose track of what the overall message is when I'm editing. So I think one of the biggest tips I can give is, like, make sure that it's completely clear. You're not telling a story. You don't need to go into huge detail about what the position was. Obviously, you need to explain what it is and how it relates and stuff, but you don't need to explain every little thing because that stuff's not important. If you say that you were president and you outline some of the roles of being president or whatever you were, that's enough. Yeah, I think just staying on track. And that's why having that skeleton outline is so important. Any other common mistakes?
Yeah, like pretty similar to what you're saying, and like just keep it nice and simple. I know sometimes people love to use the thesaurus to change their words around in their essays, which is like fine. You don't want to keep reusing the same words, but just know how to use some of the words in the thesaurus, because not all of them have the exact same meaning. And I have seen some essays that other people have written. I'm like, do you even know what this word means? He's like, no, but like on the thesaurus, it says similar to this. I'm like, yeah, but it's not the same. So honestly, don't overly complicate your essay. Just keep it nice and simple. Answer the questions they want you to answer, and just get somebody to review it. Because if you get somebody else to review it, they kind of catch things that sometimes you wouldn't see yourself. But yeah.
I just looked up for synonyms, just for an example. I looked up synonyms for nice, and one came out to ultra fine.
Exactly.
Ultra fine.
Ultra fine.
I went to an ultra fine program at University of Windsor.
Another tip that I would say just came to me was repetition. And it's kind of weird with these essays because you are writing 6 different essays. So I think it's okay to be a little bit repetitive between the essays, but you need to make sure that you have 3 distinct lessons when they ask for those 3 lessons. I feel that I edit essays and I see a lot of, like, they kind of morph into, like, 2 of the lessons are kind of the same. And you want to really sit down and think about it and have 3 distinct things. And then also word choice. You want to make sure if you're using the word nice, maybe once in a while you sprinkle a few ultra fines in there. Like,
don't do that.
Actually, but you know what I'm saying is, like, you don't want to be saying, like, I learned a lot and it was really great. And it was great to do this. And it was really great that I had this opportunity and I had a great time. And, like, that gets annoying to read, I'm not gonna lie. So make sure that you are watching out for the repetition. And I find a really good way for me, because I have issues with repetition when I'm writing, is I read it out loud. Because then you hear yourself saying the word over and over and you're like, I gotta reword that.
A tip my English teacher gave me in high school, she said, take your, like, piece of writing, essay, paragraph, whatever, and read it backwards. Like, don't read the actual sentence backwards, but read your, like, conclusion sentence, and then keep going that way and that way, or that, like, direction to the top. And then that way, like, you're reading the grammatical structure in that sentence, and you're not just thinking about what's coming next, because sometimes when you get in that cycle, like, you miss a period or you miss a comma, or, like, the words start to mesh together. So that way, like, you're thinking, you remove that flow, and that helps you edit. It's a good editing tip.
Awesome. I think, like what you guys said, a lot of us will make kind of the same mistakes, and that's okay. I think the biggest thing is with these mistakes is to catch them in drafts. So make sure you are writing multiple drafts for this. I don't think any of us sent in something that was the first draft. I think you guys said you had 2 or 3 drafts kind of around. I know for the person who I talked to the Toronto Med essays, he said he had up to 9 drafts. So that's a lot of drafts, but
so many drafts. I'm not surprised he got into U of T.
yeah, it worked for him, but definitely make sure you at least have 1 or 2 drafts so you can catch these mistakes, because you don't want the mistakes to be read by the admissions committee, because it won't really look great on you and the decision of letting you in or not, or getting an interview. The next question I have for you guys is, I think what everyone wants to know, how do you make these essays stand out? We've got, I think, 4,000 people around applying to Western who are all writing essays that have kind of the same structures. They're being asked to answer the same questions. How are you making sure that your essay is going to stand out, be a bright, shining star among the other 4,000 essays?
I'm going to sound like a broken record. But do things you love. Like, that's like when you start, it's not even just for like writing your essays, but this is something that anyone who's in any stage of their journey to medicine can start doing. When you're doing the things you love, you will write and you'll be so much more passionate about writing about them. Like, if you're just like, I'm trying to think of an example because everyone has different things that they're interested in. But for me, for example, I really enjoyed like writing for this blog on campus, and it was really easy to write about because I really enjoyed doing it. Whereas if I was just doing something just to check off the box, and I don't want to give any examples because I don't want someone to think that like it's not important if they are very interested in it. But that is so much harder to write about. And then that way, like, you're not going to be like standing out as much because it comes across in your writing that you kind of just did it, you know? So that's one thing you can change from the future. Do you guys have any suggestions for what you can do right now?
This is a personal opinion, and if it totally backfires on you, I'm not taking any responsibility for it, but it works for me. And I think that is, try to think outside of the box when you're connecting to why these lessons are going to make you a good physician. So for the leadership and teamwork, don't just say, this is going to make me a good physician because it makes me good at leadership, and physicians are leaders. You want to talk about other things. So I actually, for my leadership one, and Kylie and I are going to roll her eyes at me, I talked about how I was president of the rowing club, and rowing at Trent University. Ooh, Trent University. And
she loves rowing and she loves Trent.
Both
my
parents actually went to Trent, so.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, they were very disappointed when I didn't.
Oh no.
I went to McMaster, but
Molly,
that was a bad choice.
Molly, you just opened up a can of worms. Molly.
Yeah. You just opened up Pandora's box right now.
I'm actually the only Trent graduate in our class because there are only like 5 of us who apply every year. But okay, this isn't about Trent. What I was trying to say was, I talked about how, as president of the rowing team and as my role as a coxswain, so I wasn't actually a rower, I was the person who wears the headset and coaches the rowers. I tell them what to do. I talked about how I learned that leadership isn't always about being the loudest voice in the room, but it's more about like being able to take everybody's ideas and thoughts and opinions and experiences and integrating them into something actionable. And maybe that doesn't mean that it's entirely 100% your idea and you're the leader, so you make the decisions. It's more about having that skill of bringing everybody together. And I talked about how that would make me a better physician because we work as part of an interdisciplinary team. So if you are the person who can bring together the family's opinions and the patient's feelings and the nurses and the OTs and the PTs and everybody who is a part of patient care, and you integrate that, and you're not just stomping around saying, well, I'm the physician and I'm the leader, so we have to follow what I want to do, that makes you a better physician. And like, I thought that is a more valuable way of expressing that you're going to be a good physician than just saying like, this will make me a good physician because it gave me leadership skills. So I think that is one way to make your essays stand out, is think deeper, like go to that next level and that next level of how these qualities play into being a good physician.
That's a really good example. Just, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just like really quickly on Haley's point, like that was, it's going straight to her head. With like the leader, I struggled the most with the leadership essays, even though like I had a bunch of leadership roles, because it is so hard to define what a good leader is. And I think that if you can sit there and like critically reflect and critically appraise what it means to be a good leader, then that'll help you a lot. Advait, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, you better apologize. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, fine.
Fight.
No, I'm not gonna fight her. Kylie's great. I'm not gonna fight her. But like low-key, I'm gonna fight her.
Oh, okay.
It's fine.
No, but like something I was gonna say is for making your essays kind of stand out a little bit, and this has to do with your interviews as well. If you get an interview, is giving real life examples in your essays or your interviews. Okay, so like we're talking about leadership, let's stick with that. If I was on the rowing team, okay, but not at Trent. I
You
was the rowing
wish.
team at U Windsor because U Windsor's better.
We don't have a rowing team at U Windsor.
Where would you even row? Like in the
Detroit River.
River?
I would
Detroit
be
River.
afraid of.
Row
All right.
across the border to America.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that for the sake of the story.
You want to give real life examples of where you're a leader. You can't just say I was the captain of the rowing team. Yeah, everyone understands like you're in a leadership position by being captain, but what did you do as a leader? What made you a leader? So you want to throw in that I was a leader because I would like listen to all of my teammates remarks and like their complaints and try to problem solve. This is one time where I did this. The problem was that everyone wanted to do this, but we couldn't do that because there's only one position for that. And this is how we solve the problem. So by having these specific real life examples that you're part of, it really makes your essay stand out because it makes it more personalized towards you. And if you get an interview, you have to do the exact same thing in your interviews as well. They're going to ask you, when was the time you faced a problem and how did you solve it? That's just an example question, but you want to give a real life example of when you faced a problem. You can't just say, "Oh, a problem was when I couldn't finish my research project." No, why couldn't you finish your research project, and how did you fix that? So, just make it. Yeah.
I think, and it's all about, it's exactly what you're saying, Eve, is about having that realization that being in a leadership role doesn't make you a leader. Facing a problem, having to solve a problem doesn't make you a problem solver. You have to explain how being put in these positions, you just actually displayed those. You're completely right. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, that's a great example. All three of those are great things to think about. And I think that, as you guys said, you're writing these essays, you want to answer the question, you want to make sure you're giving them the information they want, but you also have to think about what that next level is. And I think those 3 tips will help everybody who's watching this bring their essays to that next level. Another question I have is in terms of like editing essays. Do you guys have tips to edit your essays yourself or tips to find people to edit them for you? How did you guys go about editing your essays?
So I only had my essays edited by my friend, as I spoke about previously. But now that I am editing essays, my number 1 tip would be try your hardest to find somebody who like either doesn't know you or barely knows you, because they will be the most critical of your like I am less afraid of tearing people's essays apart if I don't know them. And maybe that's bad, but it's helpful at the end of the day. So that's what I would do. I mean, have your friends and family that you trust and they are familiar with you and your experiences also. But if you have the opportunity to have like a third party person who doesn't really know you, because that's who's going to be grading it, right? It's somebody who doesn't know you. So I think that is a really good tip if you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, with that too, I would suggest not paying for those services either. Like there's so many expenses that come with med school. You don't need to pay for someone to edit your essays. There's people like forums online, Pre-Med 101, people on there are always messaging, asking for people to edit their essays. I spoke previously too. I had one of my best friend's moms do it, and she's a PR position and worked in like healthcare admin. And that was really helpful. It was kind of like a different perspective. So reach out to your networks, your connections. And one thing with medicine that I've learned is that it's all about networking, and like, you can't be afraid to ask, because the worst thing that someone will ever say to you is no. So if there is like someone, like, let's say, a friend of a friend who like has this person who, or knows this person who you might think might be a really good editor, don't be afraid to ask. Just say, hey, explain the situation, say you're applying to medical school, and the worst thing they can say is no, but make sure you ask respectfully and see what happens. Because a lot of the time I've been surprised at how willing people are to help with medicine, especially physicians. Physicians do very much like to help med students out.
Yeah, and like one thing that I guess I'll just say it again, but I said it on the Metrics channel, was if you're gonna edit the essay yourself, try to go back to it after a few hours or after a day or something, because when you're writing the essay and then trying to edit it right after you wrote it, it's kind of hard to do that. But like if you check it the next day, you kind of have a different mindset, and sometimes you can catch some things you wouldn't have caught before. But yeah, just keep going back to it.
Those are 3 great examples. Go find someone random on the street. Write your essays. You don't have to pay for services if you don't want to, or you don't have the financial means to. And then make sure you spend some or distance yourself a bit from the essays so you can come back maybe with a fresher mind. One other question I have here, kind of the last one we have in terms of these essays, is if you could go back in time, I guess it'd be 2 years for you guys, and redo your essays, would there be anything you would do differently?
That's a good question.
Oh my God, I would start mine earlier.
Yeah, like probably not because I got in, so I guess I did something right. But yeah, if I were to do something beforehand, then it would be to start earlier. I think that's like the biggest thing, because I know I didn't start. Well, I guess I started kind of late. I started 2 weeks before it was due. But if you can start 1 month before it's due, well, trust me, it saves a lot of stress. And especially in September and October when school's going to be starting and you're going to be busy, and no one knows how busy school's going to be with COVID. But yeah, I recommend just starting as early as possible.
Yeah, not even just for the Western essays. I wish I started all my essays a bit sooner, because I had thought that it wasn't going to be as big as like a time chunk as it was. And I ended up like I was going to apply to NOSM on the off chance that I was going to be that one person not from Northern Ontario who was accepted. But then I decided just not to apply so I could spend more time on my U of T essays. But if I had started everything earlier, I would have had a bit more time for that. So one thing I would change too.
I feel like so many of us are like, all med students have a little bit of a perfectionist living inside of them. And I feel like you get into that self-sabotaging mode where you're like, I'm afraid to do these and I'm afraid I'm going to fail. So I'm going to sabotage myself by not starting them until the last minute. And then when I don't get in, I can say I didn't get in because I didn't have enough time to write them. I didn't not because my essays were actually bad.
It's like the meme.
It's something we all do. It's something I'll do. So you need to get over that and just be like, the best thing I can do for myself right now is start these essays and just start. I know it's easier said than done, but just, this is your sign. Go start your essays.
It's literally that meme that's like, they can't reject me if I don't submit my essays or whatever.
That's exactly
Big
what
brain.
it is.
Okay.
I have one unrelated tip that I forgot to mention earlier. Like really quickly, something that I think helped me that someone told me to do was go on the CanMed's website and like write the definitions out on your own. And I was told to do that for Casper Prep. So for Casper Prep, for essays, it's very helpful. There's literally a poster in our building that has all the CanMeds rules that are like in the hallway. So they love CanMeds. All the schools love CanMeds.
We just got a big package for Queens with like a welcome package, and part of the handbook, literally the first section is the CanMed rules and how we're going to relearn them, or I guess be better at them during medical school. So it's like, they don't leave you. They're very important. So if you don't know what the CanMed rules are, just search them up on Google. They have a great website that have really good descriptions of it, so you can get a better understanding of what it is, but make sure you know what they are, because it will help you, I think, through the process of applying to medical school. And then once you get into medical school, because you will, you'll need to know them really, really well.
That's like, I don't know, in undergrad, we always used to talk about tattooing the amino acids on ourselves. I straight up want to tattoo the CanMeds rules. I'm just kidding.
Go into your residency interview and show them that.
Be like, look, I love CanMeds.
I am CanMeds.
I epitomize CanMeds.
They are me, I am them. Yes. Love it. Okay, so I hope that was really helpful for everybody in terms of doing your essays. As we said, start early. We're filming this on August 15th. So it gives you more than enough time to get those essays done. This is your warning sign, as we kind of said, or your little sign to get moving on those. Hopefully these 2 videos, the first one on my channel and this one on their channel, will help you guys with those essays. And if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to message me on Instagram. I'm sure they will also field some questions on their Instagram, as long as they're not overwhelmed by orientation week. That's what they're doing. They're very busy people. I've learned from chatting with them, my life is not going to get less busy in medical school. It's going to get more busy.
It's the fun busy, though. It's the fun busy.
It's the fun
always
busy.
good.
You're busy doing things that you want to be doing.
So feel free to reach out to either of us.
Perfect. And don't go anywhere yet, because we are now going to talk about Molly. She's going to tell us all about, we're old and lame second years. So now you get to hear from somebody fresh and new. So as Molly mentioned, she is going into her first year of medicine at Queen's. And maybe, Molly, you could just tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now.
I have no idea is the answer. No. So like most people, I'll try and keep it brief. I started my undergrad in kinesiology at McMaster, as I mentioned, not Trent. I'm sorry. I decided not to Trent. Yeah, I crushed my parents' heart there because they met at Trent and everything. So I wanted a Trent baby. I was not that. But yes, so I did my undergrad in kinesiology. I started in 2015. Throughout my undergrad, like a lot of people, I did typical pre-med things. I did research, I did clinical experience. I got a couple publications, so did the usual stuff. Found, as you mentioned, the things that I actually enjoyed. I had a lot more fun with. So if you're doing things just to check off boxes, that might not be the best way to do things. You know, while you're in undergrad, do what you want to enjoy, because undergrad is supposed to be fun, despite what the memes say sometimes. I did my undergrad, and then after, yes, in my 4th year, I applied to medicine for the first time. I probably shouldn't have applied. My MCAT was horrible. So it was really, I guess, no surprise when I got rejected to the 5 schools I applied to. I did the Ontario ones minus Northern Ontario because I didn't think there was a chance I'd be that one person who gets in. So it wasn't a surprise when I heard kind of, I guess, January and February that I didn't get any interviews. I don't know if any of you guys got rejected in your first round or how many times you guys applied.
Me.
Okay, we can bond over this. It sucks. It honestly sucks when you get rejected. You can cry a lot. You can get ice cream. That's what I did. But it definitely.
Even like I got rejected my first year just like you, and then I got my first rejection of like my second cycle. I cried like so much. So and you know what's hard is that you see other people getting in and getting those interviews, and then you compare yourself. So don't compare yourself.
Yeah, it was, just completely crushing. Did not get the MCAT score I thought I was going to get based off the practice test, probably a little bit of test anxiety there. No surprise, I didn't get any interviews that year. So I kind of went through this whole phase of, is medicine for me? Should I be a doctor? What's going to happen with me? Am I going to be somebody on the street with my dogs? I don't know. So I went through this whole, I don't know what to do. But I did know, bottom line, I wanted to work in healthcare. So I did actually look at other careers in healthcare. I looked at OT and PT because from a kinesiology degree, that made a lot of sense. I also looked at nurse practitioners and nursing, but I ended up deciding to actually apply to McMaster's physician assistant program. If you guys don't know what that program is, go check it out. I have a lot of respect for PAs. The program itself is really, really well done. It's amazing. So I actually ended up applying there and then got rejected from there as well. So I was kind of at this point where it's like, okay, I think I'm feeling better about medicine. I'm feeling better about reapplying. I think I can do the MCAT again. I don't want to do it again, but if I have to do it again, I can do this. So I started doing my MCATs. I started the essays and all that. But I ended up finding out I actually got accepted to the PA program at McMaster. So this is, I guess, where my trek to medicine, as I like to call it, was a little bit different because I was kind of at this crossroads of deciding, do I want to choose the PA? Do I want to forget about medicine? How do I want to do this? And if you're ever in this point where you're making a decision about your life or your career, my biggest suggestion is to talk to people you know, talk to your family, talk to mentors. And that's what I did. For me, I was really interested in the PA program and curious, but I didn't 100% know if this was for me. And I think the only way for me to find that out was to actually try it. But because I already had started the process of applying to medicine, I decided just to kind of keep both doors open. So last year, in September 2019, I entered the PA program. I've done it for a year, and then eventually I dropped out because I did get into medicine. But it was something that kind of is part of my journey. I'm really happy it was. I learned a lot about it. And again, I respect the PA profession a lot. If you ever have any questions about PA or MD, you're more than welcome to message me about that and we can have a chat about it. Don't suggest it for everyone in terms of as a kind of stepping stone to medicine, because it's not really a stepping stone to medicine, but it is something that's really interesting. It's something I think that I'll get to bring to my class of med students and be able to talk about my experience as a PA student. That's kind of where my trek kind of took a little bit of a turn. But eventually, I went to the PA school. I then also did my MCAT. I got my MCAT score last September, was a lot better this time, thank God, because I did not want to write it again the third time. I applied to medical school as planned. I got 3 interviews at Ottawa, Queen's, and McMaster, and then went through the interview cycle that kind of got disrupted with COVID. We'll talk about that a bit later. And then found out in May that I got accepted to Queen's and have, I guess, just been on cloud 9 since then. So that's the
Hey.
long version of it, but
That's
my
awesome.
medicine.
Congrats again for getting in, by the way.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
It's still kind of like one of those feelings like you're like, oh yeah, I got in. Okay.
It's surreal. I know. It's like I remember the summer when I got in, and I would just go somewhere like get a haircut, and then they're just starting like casual conversation. The barber would be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm in school. I'm studying right now." They're like, "What are you studying?" And I'm like, "Whoa, this is weird." I'm about to say I'm a medical student. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. It just sounds weird saying it for the first time, but yeah, that feeling's surreal.
It doesn't go away. Like I was getting my TB test yesterday and the nurse was like, what do you need a TB test for in the middle of a pandemic? And I'm like, oh, like med school. And I was like, oh wait, med school. Yeah.
For anyone who's applying, one thing I said on my channel, it's kind of like a model I like, is that, you know, the trek to medicine, the journey to medicine, whatever you want to call it, it's not easy. You know, it's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it. And I think that we're all nodding our heads here so far, that at least until second year, it's still worth it. But yeah, it's been amazing just to be able to do this. It's been amazing to share this with my friends, with my families who've been there to support me. I got my email when I was driving, so I had to pull over on the side of the road and opened it up, and I had my dog there. I was screaming and crying. My poor dog was probably like, what the hell, human? Calm down. But it's been an amazing experience so far. And I'm so excited to start medical school, even though there's a pandemic, but I'm still excited.
Yeah. So kind of on that note, like you must have been right in the middle of like interview season when everything started, all of COVID started happening, things started shutting down. So when that started happening, like where were you at kind of in terms of like what interviews you had coming up and what started going through your head?
So, unlike everybody else, I did not immediately think I needed to buy a bunch of toilet paper and all that.
That's good.
For the most part, I think I'm somebody who likes to be an optimistic. So I'm like, oh yeah, no, like this could affect things, but it won't. Everything's gonna be fine. Like they'll find a cure tomorrow. This will go away. So I think in some ways I was trying to be a bit naive and optimistic that this wasn't gonna affect things. I was lucky enough to get my Ottawa and my Queen's interview done in person. So I did Ottawa, I think, like the second last weekend of February, and then the first week of March for Queen's. So literally just 2 weeks before the pandemic kind of blew up here in Canada. So the only one that was affected for me directly was McMaster's interview process, or I guess lack of interview process. I don't know if you guys followed that too much.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we followed it.
Med world scandal.
Yeah, so I guess the easiest way to describe it is they decided to do kind of a lottery system, but not a lottery system. I think I'm describing this right, but basically Mac was going to interview 550-ish people. What they did was before the interview, they pre-ranked everybody. So from 1 to 100, they automatically gave them an acceptance. And then I believe everybody from like 101 to 550-ish got thrown into a hat. I don't know if there's actually a hat. That'd be kind of cool if they were just picking names out of a hat.
You know, have you ever watched those lottery channels where they just pick out a ball and they say the numbers? It's like
That's
that.
what I was thinking. Like bingo balls.
Yeah.
Live stream it on YouTube. Oh, can you imagine the drama?
Oh my god.
Oh, if they did it live, that would be intense.
I
But
feel
they're,
like we could talk about this for like hours. There's just
Like they pull out your ALMSAS application number because you get an application number, right?
Yeah.
And they're
Oh
like
my
reading
God.
it one by one slowly.
Yeah. So basically what Mac did was they did do a lottery system. I did not get into McMaster based off the lottery system. So obviously my views of whether the lottery or not was a good idea might be a bit biased. It's unfortunate because Mac was definitely, I guess, between Mac and Queen's, sorry, Ottawa, they were my top two choices. I just absolutely fell in love with Queen's when I got an interview there. And then Mac, just being a McMaster student for the last 5 years and loving the community and having so many friends there, Mac made a lot of sense for me, and I think it was definitely kind of my comfort zone was Mac. And also just when I was envisioning, you know, interviewing and like finally getting an interview, in my mind, it was always Mac, I guess maybe because I was there. So it was a bit disappointing to say I never actually got to interview at Mac. But I can understand, you know, from the school's perspective, they were in a tight situation. No one plans for pandemics to happen. So they had to make a decision either way. Fortunately for me, it didn't work out the way I would have liked it to go, but it is what it is. And I don't know if you guys have talked much about how the lottery might impact the students or not, or how it will, impact the future. But I think we won't really know if it was a good idea or a bad idea until in the future, right? I think
we haven't really touched upon it yet. We're getting through our admissions now, but now I guess we can start talking about COVID in future podcast episodes. But that year is matching with us, so.
Because they're 3 years, right? So
they're
the
3
class
years.
of 2023 with us.
So they're the same as us. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
So like, if they're not a good class, like I'm fine with that. That makes me.
I'm fine with it too. Like honestly, it's fine.
It's an opportunity to go up to the match.
Like one quick point about that though is literally they're not that they won't remember, but they're not gonna look at that residency programs. I know I saw everyone freaking out on pre-med about it, and
the lottery cohort. That's what they're calling them. The lottery cohort.
That's 300 plus students. No.
Yeah, and it won't matter.
Yeah, and medicine's a lot about making those connections and certain programs. And if you're applying for a certain program and you do, oh my God, I hope there's travel electives by the time this comes around. But if you go to that hospital or that clinic and you show that you're a valuable candidate, I guess, they're not going to be well, they're the lottery cohort. So
No. Yeah.
I think that will not matter at all. I think a lot of first years going in, just for ones I talk, feel a little bit worried about imposter syndrome because they feel like they.
Right.
I think in general, a lot of med students have imposter syndrome. Why me?
Oh yeah.
With Canada, it's so competitive to get into medical school here. So I think we've all probably had that thought, why me? Why did they decide me? So I think that might be an issue for some people, or maybe a bit more of a challenge for those Mac Med students, is maybe the imposter syndrome of it. But I don't think they need to think that. 5,000 people applied to McMaster last year. So if you're in the top 500, you're already an amazing applicant.
Well, that's the thing that you have to think about is there are so many applicants and it's so competitive, and probably all 550 of those people were more than qualified to be medical students. And it's just the way that it works out. And that's why you see people who apply twice or 3 times or 4 times and eventually they get in, because that entire time they were qualified. And it's just about getting that lucky mix of having the essays that they want to read and the abs they want to read and having a good interview and having good interviewers and just that perfect concoction. And that's your year you get in. But if you're a Mac student listening to this, don't let anybody tell you that you're the lottery cohort, because you deserve to be where you are.
No, I think that's a great message. And I think one thing, I think some people on the pre-med forums, they dug up studies. Apparently they actually do lottery systems in other countries quite like this. I think the Netherlands is one where it's actually standard. I might be completely wrong, but I think there is a country where medical school is done based only on a lottery system. So they do GPA, they do MCAT, and if you meet that, your name gets to go into the lottery. I'm not sure if it's that simple, but this is not the first time a lottery system has ever been used for applying to medical school.
That's quite interesting.
That is cool.
I know some countries though, some countries view academics way more heavily than other stuff. So some places don't even have interviews. It's just based on your scores. That's it. High scores get in.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, law school doesn't have interviews. I always find that interesting.
Yeah,
that's medicine, but
when my friend's gone to law school and I was like, oh, how was your interview? He's like, oh, we didn't have one. I was like, what? What do you mean?
They should make them go in and argue with their interviewer.
That'd be kind of cool.
Interview. That would be so cool.
Pre-law students just go in and debate for a whole day, and the
they just watch them.
A debate showdown, and the final debaters get to go into law school.
I'd pay to watch that. That's a good reality show, I think.
Law school Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I need to get this to a TV network. I'd watch it.
Patented advert. Copyright it. I don't know if that's a patent. Anyways.
Yeah, so you did it despite all the COVID challenges. Here you are. And now you're prepping to go to medical school. Also, still in the midst of COVID. It's still happening. And what has that been like?
I think with COVID in general, there seems to be at least I'm someone who gets stressed. So I know when I was waiting for the acceptances to come out in May, there's I think it was about 8 weeks when it was okay, I'm not doing my MAC interview. I have to wait till May 12th to find out. My anxiety level was just like higher than ever. And like that was when the pandemic was, we were quarantining a lot more. So there was no gym to go do that. There was no, like, you couldn't see friends. It was just me and my mom at home. So I think that made things a lot worse in terms of just finding out results and trying to be a calm person. So that sucked a lot. But I think now, because things are opening up a bit, things are returning a bit more normal. I think there's added anxiety and added stress a little bit of what the school year is going to look like. I'm trying to prepare for that. Queens have kind of made their official statement now about how we're going to have some in-person classes, but some online. So that's just been good to know that. There's also like the added stress of like, do I go find a place in Kingston, or should I just stay here in the GTA this year? And then I think in general, trying to find ways to connect with our classmates. We've just overall, my class at Queens has been pretty active on social media already, which is really good. And all of us have just mentioned, like, as soon as we get to Kingston, as safe as possible, we want to see each other. So I think for the most part, things are the same. I'm still wondering, what notebook do I use? Do I need a lab coat? What stethoscope do I need? So that type of typical thing, but a little bit more, I guess, anxiety and stress of like, how is my year going to look versus what it would look normally. And then just trying to figure out housing and all that's through a pandemic has not been particularly fun, but we've worked it out. I think we'll find out in September how it goes.
Oh yeah, I have some friends starting med school this year as well, and like housing has been their biggest issue. Like, should I even get a place? Should I not get a place? Am I gonna room with someone random, especially during a pandemic? But yeah,
that was a big question for me, like deciding if I wanted a roommate or not. One, I have 2 dogs, so sometimes it's not logical to have a roommate because people can say they're dog people, but you don't really know until you meet them. So I was kind of like, okay, I'll rather go alone. But now, knowing that I won't be able to see my classmates as much, I'm kind of like, oh, it would have been really cool to have a roommate. But as my mom reminded me, it's like, think of the worst roommate you've ever had in undergrad. Would you want to be quarantined with them? I'm like, no,
right.
I'd rather be alone. So that was a good kind of base to go off. It's like, okay, I'll go alone. I'll just talk to the dogs all the time and it'll be fine. It'll be like my roommate.
Even viewing apartments in a pandemic, like, I feel so bad for you, and like, not to like change it to like about me, but I just wanted out of my apartment before people even started viewing it because I was moving, and you don't know who's coming in your apartment versus like you're going in, you don't know what that person does throughout the week. You don't know if they're in their apartment and they're like sneezing on their countertops and not wiping it down with the Lysol, or like you usually go in with the landlords. Like, I can't imagine how stressful that was for you. Or like,
we were lucky at the time when I was looking for apartments, because I decided just with everything, you know what, it doesn't make sense for me to live with my mom because she only really has like a 1-bedroom apartment, so it would have been not a fun time to live with her the whole time. So it's like, okay, so I'm gonna move to Kingston. Even if we're online, it'll be good to be in Kingston. At the time when I was looking at places, Kingston actually had no cases of COVID, and it wasn't like when there was a lot of restrictions and masks and all stuff. So for the most part, most landlords were okay with us looking at the place. It was empty. If there was still occupied by somebody, they would just send us a video. So that was a little bit harder because usually you can go look even if there are people living there. It was pretty good. Like, we wore masks, we wore gloves and stuff, and we went into the places and was able to look around. I think the biggest stress was just like, do I even need an apartment if I'm going to end up just back at home the whole time? But I think it will work out.
You never know what's going to happen either. Like, I know they've been trying to talk to us too, and like, they always say like the virus knows best, which is true. Like, you never know what's going to happen. And like, who knows if some like miracle treatment's going to come out of left field and no one sees it. And then we're going to be able to go back to school sooner than we expected. That is what I like hope for every single night, because I really want to go back to school, or go back to like school as I know it. But it's also, so like, I guess that's why like if it was me and I was in your position, I'd want to be close to school. I mean, I am going to move back to school too, in the next few weeks. So I don't know. It's hard. I feel so bad for you guys. I know we were talking about this before the podcast, but like, I have so much like empathy for you.
I think it's like one of those things where you're just so grateful to be in medical school finally. So it's like, you can't complain to a certain extent, but you can also acknowledge that this sucks. Like, no one wants to start medical school in the midst of a pandemic. I guess the positive has been, being able to see how much support the community has given to physicians and other healthcare workers, and just like seeing that they're on the news a lot, and just kind of, I guess, being like, oh yeah, I'm going into this field. This is going to be awesome. When the next pandemic happens, knock on wood, maybe not, I can be the person who's helping all these patients and all these people in the community. So I guess it's been kind of nice to just be like, oh yeah, like I really want to do this career, even if there's a pandemic.
Right. Great. And so all that being said, like, what are you most nervous for? Like, do you think it's something that's like COVID specific that is making you like that you're most nervous for going into school, or is it just like regular nerves?
I think there's like a general level of just like regular nerves. I think like when people ask you, are you excited for medical school? Are you nervous? It's like a mixture of both, because like I think for all of us, we spent years maybe dreaming about this, or at least a decent amount of time dreaming about our first day at medical school. And you're just nervous about, are people going to like you? It's kind of like, I guess, high school or kindergarten. Am I going to make friends? Am I going to be the worst medical student ever in Canada? Queen's going to be like, why did you choose her? Like,
that is not going to be you. I'm going to tell you that right now. That will not be you.
That's already me. That's already me, so it can't be you.
Mission's already felt good. I'm good.
You could be second worst if you want, but I got the worst.
As long as I'm not the worst, it's good.
You're good. Admin's got you covered.
Okay, thank you, bud. So yeah, there's like those general, I guess, stress levels in terms of that, and like jumping in. Queens has a lot of different acronyms for all their classes, so like even just
we do too.
What this
That's medicine in general.
Is like completely confusing. At least I don't have to worry about getting lost on my first day of class, because it will just be online. So if I do get lost, that'd be really sad.
Go to the wrong Zoom room.
Go to the wrong room in my house and be like, computer, where is everybody? So I don't have to worry about that. But I guess the worry of maybe someone sees something weird on my Zoom camera, or like my phone works randomly. So I guess that, I think maybe the most COVID related one is just like community. I really am excited to meet medical students and become that family. Queens, and I know Western as well, talks a lot about your class will be kind of your second family. I have a lot of worries that it'll be a bit harder to connect with people just because online is not the same as in person, no matter how realistic things get with Zoom and such. But so far it's been really good. We did a really cool thing already with our class. I don't know if you guys know that the CMA, or you guys know the backpack they have?
Yeah.
Our
Our color is yellow, so immediately everyone started saying the bumblebees.
Kaylee, do you have yours? Is that your?
I was just gonna.
Yeah, I got mine.
So I will have a yellow one of those. It's like super bright yellow. It will not be hard to find us. But immediately, as soon as like our classmates were talking about that, like, oh, we're gonna be known as the bumblebees, like the busy bees. So me and two other students in our class decided to make masks. So we have like masks that are bee themed, and then have like
that's awesome.
And we also made like a Queens just kind of themed mask. So that was really fun just to get to do that. We wouldn't have made masks unless we were in the middle of a pandemic. So I guess we can thank the pandemic for that. So we're going to be matching with a bright yellow mask and a bright yellow backpack.
That's so nice, because we've been telling the 24s that they are traffic lights and mustard on hot dogs. So it's really nice that you guys went for bees. I kind of feel bad now.
In a hive, like really
no, I like that way better.
The other one we thought was the Minions from like Despicable Me. It was like Minions in clerkship, like we'll be at the bottom of the ladder, so we'll just be everybody's minion and helping out.
I think we're just way too rude. Our class is like, oh yeah, they're traffic light, like they have to slow down because it's yellow, or like they're mustard, the worst condiment of them all.
No, mustard's the best condiment. I love mustard.
We're relish.
Look,
like,
mustard.
Come on.
Well,
yellow's my favorite color.
The year above us, the 2022s, they're red, right? So now we have red, green, yellow. So it's like a traffic light, or like the hot dog with ketchup, mustard, relish. And we just thought that was funny. And bees are so much nicer. And I know we've been compared to like frogs or like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is fun.
Nice. Okay, everyone's hating on this yellow so much. I love yellow. It's my favorite color. Everyone needs to give yellow a better chance.
We're not hating. We're just memeing.
It's really bright. That's like my thing. It's like you are gonna be able to spot us from like a mile away.
Yeah.
That's how you find your friends.
Point. That's the point.
You're like, oh, there's my friends over there.
It's actually great when you go back to campus and you can like, or like you see a red backpack show up and you're like, oh my God, the clerks are here. The clerks are here. It's like a big deal. Yeah.
No, or like you go through the airport and like you see that med backpack and you're like, that's my family. I know these people. We're all in this together.
And they're very good backpack. I mean, I really like mine. It has so many
I love mine
pockets.
too.
It's so roomy. You can put so much stuff into it. Like, I think it's a great backpack.
I can't wait for it. Like, we're getting the backpacks. I don't know how they're getting it to us because of orientation, but they said we will get them before school starts.
That's great.
I'll pack my backpack that day.
You can pack your backpack to go to your room for Zoom.
It'll be fine.
You got a video idea for you. You can make one like, what's in my backpack? Boom. Pull out
Yeah.
your new iPad.
Fun.
Pull out your new iPad.
Yours. You guys can all compare what's in your backpacks.
That would be hilarious because I
Ooh.
think you would find 3 very different sets of items.
My thing would be like 2 seconds. Like, I have a laptop in there. That's it. I'm done. Like, I don't put.
I would be
anything
like,
in my
I have
backpack.
everying that I've ever owned in this backpack.
Yeah, that's the
Let
same
me show
thing as
you.
No, I have
Like
nothing.
Haley was saying, like when I saw her this summer, because we had to do a distant research thing, and like we both have our backpacks with us because our whole life is in it, and you can't just take everything out because then your whole life's falling apart.
It's easier just to bring the backpack around.
No, it'll be
Yeah,
fun. So,
it
yeah,
is. It's
we're the
very
Bumble
exciting.
class, so you can shout out to us when you see us.
We
Shout out to
will.
the class of the bumblebees.
2024s. And so I guess the last like serious question we want to ask you is, having been through everything, having a very tough application year, very different, what advice would you give to pre-meds who are applying this cycle to med school where things are still going to be kind of weird, probably?
I think it's maybe advice that can apply just to like any year, but in general, especially with this year, go with the flow in terms of things. Things are going to be out of your control. Not being able to apply or interview at McMaster was out of my control. I did probably spend a good week moping around about it and eating ice cream and trying to console my feelings about not being able to interview at Mac. I think in most part, acknowledge that some things are going to suck, things are going to change, and that overall, most of you guys are probably doing school where you're online, and that's not how you want to do your last year, which definitely sucks. But just know that, the pandemic is something that's important. We need to do everything as medical students or as pre-meds who want to become medical students, acknowledge that there's a bit of kind of a spotlight on you a little bit more. So just, make sure you stick with the guidelines and stuff in terms of public health, but know that this is hopefully a short-term thing and things will work out in the end. I think for myself, it's like, okay, Mac didn't work out, but maybe this is a good thing. Maybe I'm supposed to go to Queens for a reason. Maybe I'll have a really good experience at Queens, and that was what the world was trying to tell me. I think in general, just trying to go with the flow. If you can't control things, that's okay. Acknowledge it sucks, but just focus on the things that you can control, like your MCATs, your essays, whatever format interviews will be in. Maybe that's a good tip as well. If you know interviews are probably going to be online for this year, practice talking to a computer. So maybe start a podcast or a YouTube. Get used to talking to a camera. But in general, it's okay. And if things don't work out this year, you can always apply. We have 2 people here who have applied twice, and life is still good. So it's not the end if you don't get in this year.
It
That's
all
great
happens for a
advice,
reason. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
true. Like if
that
I
was
had gotten in
lovely.
that first year, I wouldn't have like my best friends. Like I'm gonna get all mushy.
We would be pals.
Yeah, but like the people that I've met this year have been like, they have gotten me through truly some of like the hardest points in my life, unrelated to medical school. It's a story for another day. But
Points in your life, medical school? What? No.
yeah, no, it wasn't a long story. But like you will meet some of the best people, and they will understand what you're going through. And like I fully believe I am like one of those people who is like, everything happens for a reason. There's a reason you have to be at Queens. So
Yes, we'll find out.
Yeah.
But hopefully soon. But yeah, definitely just try and go with the flow. If you can't control things, that's okay. And I think one other, tidbit I'd like to give people just in general when applying and just going through your pre-med journey wherever you are at, try and enjoy it. I think one thing I found that in my last year, I just enjoyed being a pre-med a lot more. I started doing things just because I wanted to do things. For example, I talked about dogs already a couple times, but fostering a dog during school is not the best idea. I brought home a puppy halfway through exams. I literally got the puppy and then went to write an exam. So it's not the most logical thing I've ever done, but it's been the most exciting thing I did. And it wasn't to check off a box in terms of like pre-meds. And I found that a lot at the time when I was, getting rid of activities I didn't like. I had a better time being a pre-med and had a better time applying to medicine. So yeah.
That's so great. Yeah. I think we do have one more surprise question for you. Advait, would you
All
like
right.
to?
So this is the most important question of the day.
The most important.
The most important one. Okay. So I need you to listen carefully because it's only going to be asked once.
It's like my interview's all over again. My
Like the interview. Okay. Do you want a glass of water? Do you want to get a sip of water before we start?
Oh, one person for Ottawa, he like came out and his whole arm was wet because apparently
Oh
he started
no.
filling the glass but forgot to stop filling it. So
Oh no.
yeah, so in Ottawa they're nice enough that we go in for your panel interview. They usually have cups of water there and a jug. So I guess he picked it up and then like started pouring and just forgot and like poured all over her shirt.
Oh, I hope he got in. I hope he got in.
I know for my interview at Queen's, I for some reason was having the worst dry throat ever. So we do MMI for Queen's, 6 stations. So for every station, I was drinking like 2 cups of water. And the person who like was in charge of the water like knew when I was coming out, so would already have a glass of water ready for me. Like, oh my god, I'm that person. And then after that, all I could think about was I have to pee so badly.
Yeah.
I remember for my Western interview, this is kind of a funny story too. My cup was 75% ice and like 25% water. So I took a sip and I got a bunch of ice in my first sip. And they asked me a question, and I was just sitting there munching on my ice. I couldn't answer. I had to finish my ice first.
That would happen to you. That'd be an Advait thing to happen.
But I got in, so it all worked out. But the big question for today. If you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
Ooh, this might have been a question that might be very similar to an interview question I've done. I think one thing that I really enjoyed just in terms of like human beings is being able to talk and communicate with people. I only know one language right now. I only know English. I could say I know French, but that's a complete lie. French did not help me in grade school. One superpower that would maybe potentially make me a better doctor would be to communicate with people in all languages. So
that is such a good one. Oh
that's a good answer. That's a really good answer.
You can get into medical school.
Good.
I was gonna say something like be invisible.
No, my answer was straight up. Like my answer is to teleport. Like I want to be able to be here and then boom, I'm in Japan.
Like if you need to like go to like your bedroom to like the wards right away or into OR, just like snap your fingers and you're in there. That'd be good.
Oh my god, you're thinking of medicine so much. I'm thinking of
you're very medical oriented.
I'm thinking of like
I love it.
Snapping my fingers so I could be in like New York and get a nice slice of pizza. Not like
well, I guess if I'm able to travel, then I can talk to everybody. So
yeah, no, that's great though. I love that.
That was one thing I didn't get to do this summer. Was if I got into medical school, I was gonna go on a big trip to Europe, but that has been postponed.
Yeah, I was gonna say mind reading because I always think that people are thinking mean things about me, but they're probably not. And then if I could read their minds, I would just know, and I think I'd just be a happier individual.
What if you read your mind and they are thinking mean things?
Yeah,
that's the backfire thing, is that like people could be thinking really mean things about me. I don't know, I'd probably just cry a lot.
But then what if like you're always hearing everyone's minds around you and then it gets too crazy because like
no, like I'd be able to like turn it on and off. Like I'd look at you and read your mind.
Do like Jedi control kind of thing.
Yeah, like yeah.
It's really good when you're a doctor, because then you can like read your patient's mind without having to ask them all the questions.
All right, yeah. Like you're gonna be a good doctor. You are 100%.
Everything to medicine. This is what you gotta do in your interviews.
Yeah, straight up. Like that was the most interview answer ever. But it was a good answer.
That was good. That was good.
Great.
Still in that mindset of like, how do I answer an interview?
We need to do like a 1-year podcast with Molly again and like ask her all the same questions.
Okay, well, we'll see you next year on August 15th.
Done. So
yeah.
Pandemic is done, so there'll be no pandemic related questions. But yes, we can do this annually.
Yeah.
And then we'll ask her what her superpower should be. She's going to want to go on a Vacation. Like Advait.
She's going to want to go on vacation.
Like never need to sleep so I can study all the time. No.
Okay. That's just torture.
But yeah, so I think that wraps it up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for chatting with us. And like we said before, if you haven't seen part 1 yet, go over to the MedTrek and check it out. We have all of the channel information, links, and everything below. Molly also has a great video on U of T, so make sure you check that out. And as per usual, follow all of our socials at Tachy Talks everywhere. Like we said before, if you're new, if you're coming here from Molly's channel, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you stick around. We have lots of fun all the time. It's our #1 priority. And that was episode 9.
Next week is episode 10, where we will talk more about what we wish we knew before starting med school. So,
And we're getting a cake.
and we'll get cake.
We are getting a cake, and I'm
We're getting a
very
10
excited for
episode
this
cake.
episode.
I should have come for that episode.
Yeah.
We'll ship you. We'll ship you a piece of
We'll ship you a
some
piece of
There we go.
Anyway, thanks for having us. This was episode 9 of Tachy Talks. We'll see you next week.
Bye.